All right. Hello, everyone, and thanks for joining us. This is round number 2 for us. We decided to make our award ceremony not necessarily a two-parter, but we wanted to make sure that we had a chance to cater to all our publishers globally. So we knew that by doing it in the morning here in Carlsbad, California, where the Ezoic headquarters is, that we might miss some publishers in different time zones. And it was really important to me that we were able to do this for all of our publishers at a time that was convenient for them. And so we have recorded our awards ceremony, but yeah, we always know that it's good to join live, and hopefully some of you will have a chance to join me tomorrow as well. I also have joining with me live here once again is Paul from Google's Creator Relations Department. And Paul gave a very fascinating and interesting, are we having trouble with sound?
I can hear you fine.
Okay. If we have trouble with sound, someone just let me know. Oh, okay, great. Excellent. So yeah, as I mentioned, and the voice you just heard is Paul, who joined me this morning as well. And I'm having heard Paul's presentation and a little bit more about what he shared with us earlier today. I'm even more excited for all of you to have a chance to see it firsthand, because I think it's very relevant and timely for a lot of the things that we have going on. And I know a lot of the opportunities that I think exist in this space for all of you. So I'm going to go ahead and get us started by sharing my screen. And somebody let me know if for any reason you're unable to kind of see what I've got on my end. All right, so as I mentioned before, this is kind of round 2 for us, but it will be no different than the session that we had this morning. And yeah, we hope that everyone will have a chance to kind of dig into more of what we've done as a part of this sort of campaign. New Year's Evolution is what we've called it, because I think it's both identifying and celebrating a lot of what our publishers have accomplished this year, but at the same time, looking towards the future and what that means for publishers. And for those that don't know me, my name is Tyler Bishop. I'm the CMO here at Ezoic. I'm an award-winning marketer. And if you win an award in marketing, you just got to put that on everything you do for the rest of your life. And I'm a member of the Forbes Communication Council and have worked with our partners at Google to host events that we called Pubtelligence around the world at many of their different offices. And hopefully we'll again one day. And I know in the morning I saw some familiar names and folks that I haven't had a chance to run into in a while, but customers and publishers that I'm used to seeing at our events back when we did them, and we will do them again. And a little bit more about me. I'm a Shiba Inu owner, so the dog, not the coin. I'm a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I'm an amateur magician. And like many of you, I own way too many domains that are completely unused, but I am a publisher as well. So I've both bought and sold and currently publish on a number of different sites, mostly related to my interests these days. And one of the reasons why we decided we want to put this together and specifically this year is because I've said before that I think we are in the golden age of publishing. It's never been easier to reach an audience, and I think it's never been easier to create good content. And I think that it's not a zero-sum game, that there's so much room for growth. And we've continually seen our publishers grow and develop and build audiences that are unique. And that's something I think Paul is going to talk a little bit more about, that I think is really, really relevant to the era that we're in at the moment. specifically because I think complexity and changes in the space are both permanent and something that we've noticed the barriers to entry and many of the other prerequisites, that didn't exist years ago now exist for publishers. And, being able to overcome those things and then also succeed in spite of them, I think is really inspiring. It's something that we want to identify and draw some awareness around, because I think as an independent publisher, a lot of times you don't get maybe the recognition or even sort of the visibility in many cases to what each other are doing. And I think this is at least one of many efforts that we've instituted here recently to try to both encourage and also support our independent publishers all around the world. And so just as a kind of quick overview, next up, I'll turn it over to Paul, who I think has some really relevant information, maybe some insights and some ways of thinking about your content and basically your role as a publisher in the modern ecosystem that I think is, I think it'll be something that most of you find quite valuable. And afterwards, we'll be announcing some of our award winners and kind of continuing on with the award ceremony and some of the things that went into that process. And I'll give you a brief overview of what we'll be announcing and reviewing tomorrow. And we'll be going back over some of the awards and the winners, but primarily I'll be kind of walking you through a little bit about what to expect in 2022 from Ezoic and some of the exciting things that we have planned and some of the things that hopefully you'll have a chance to benefit from this year. And then I'll answer any and all the questions you have until the laptop dies. That's generally what I say, and I mean it. I think I did 2.5 hours of Q&A back in Customer Week last year. So looking forward to just having a chance to connect with everyone again. But with all that being said, I've teed him up a couple of times now, but Paul, having had a chance to hear your presentation earlier today, I know the publishers are going to enjoy it, and I'm looking forward to kind of revisiting it, because I thought this is one of the most relevant conversations for our publishers to start having. And I think maybe we'll kind of inspire in them some ways of thinking about their business that maybe they aren't today. So without any further ado, I'm going to hand it off to Paul.
Sounds great. Thank you so much for the intro. Yeah. Thank you, Tyler. Okay, let me share my screen to get started. Here we go. And does that look good?
Yeah, it looks good.
Okay, I can't see it. So, okay, all right, perfect. So yeah, hey everybody, I'm really excited to be here and speaking with you all. I hope you get value out of this presentation about becoming a sustainable creator. There's a picture of a cosplayer here. That's not random. That's because the co-creator of this talk initially is right here pictured. So her name is Yaya Han, and you can follow her on Instagram, Twitter. She's also a costume maker and creator, so check her out. But now, a little bit about myself. So I'm Paul. I'm the head of creative relations at Google, and that's a pretty new team that we didn't have for a long time. You know, we had several developer relations teams that would help developers get success on the web, but we never really had and we had consumer marketing departments, but we really never had a team that is dedicated to helping publishers and content creators succeed in a non-technical way. And so since a year or two ago, we started on this path to create a new program to help every content creator on the web succeed. You can also follow me personally on Twitter, on Instagram, if you and on my blog, of course, if you want to hear me ramble about the creator economy. So that's a little bit about myself. And now let's talk about creators and the creator economy. It's a pretty exciting time to be a content creator. And what used to be a side activity to share stuff online is now an estimated $100 billion strong economy, which is mind-boggling, right? And it's a career top of mind for millions of kids and teenagers for the first time, with over 75% of US children ages 6 to 17 wanting to become YouTubers when they grow up. And so for a hobbyist creator, they're probably that's a net positive outcome and they're in a happy place. But then if you're a career creator, not everything looks as shiny as it is. So with any hyper growth industry, and I would say, of course, blogging has existed for a long time, but the aspect around being called a creator and the social media aspects, etc. I would say we're definitely in a different era than we were before when it comes to content creation. And a hyper growth industry often comes with slowly learning about the shortcomings and the mental health effects of all of that. And I often think about the Gartner hype cycle. If you're not familiar with the Gartner hype cycle, it's a model to explain a hype about a new tech, let's say VR or social gaming. And so anytime a new technology gets hyped, everyone is very, very excited. And you get to this peak of inflated expectations where everyone thinks, all right, VR is going to save the world and etc. Right? Now, of course, it won't save all the world's problems. And at some point, people realize, actually, maybe VR is only good for certain things. And so you get into a trove of disillusionments at some point where you realize, actually, not everything is as rosy as it seems. And then later on, you probably realize, actually, it doesn't solve the world problems, but VR is good at that one thing or at those multiple things. And you eventually get to the plateau of productivity. Now, I'm telling you all of this because I think the creator economy, as we call it today, is also somewhere after the peak of inflated expectations on this chart. And so we're seeing massive hype right now around content creation, not just on the web, but across the board. But we're starting to see the cracks when it comes to the profession of a content creator. Not everything is as shiny as it seems. So let's take a look at the difference between 2008 as a content creator and 2022. Now, these two areas were quite different when it comes to celebrities and fashion. We moved from a fashion decade that Vice likens to dressing like somebody vomited a jumble sale directly on us, to some even more weird fashion in 2022, and a new appreciation for Greek letters. But of course, in the content creation game, there's also a shift towards visual content like images and video, but that's the obvious part. There's a lot of non-obvious stuff that's going behind the scenes, and creators are burned out. Now, why are they burned out? Now, of course, we have a global pandemic, but that's not all of it. When the creator startup Vibely did some survey here with 150 micro to macro influencers and creators, they found out over 90% of them said that they're burned out, and over 71% have considered quitting social media altogether. Now, social media is not the same as a website, but I think this applies to all types of creation. These are pretty sobering numbers. We've also seen publications like Vox or the New York Times write about this. And so there's definitely a pattern happening here that I'm pretty concerned about. Now, for the typical blogger, it's often the other way around. They feel like they must be on social to attract new audiences. But then they run into similar issues as all the other non-web creators. So what are those issues? Well, the first one is that social media is now the #1 way to distribute and discover content in some verticals. Not all verticals. There's obviously still SEO and still aggregators at place like Pinterest and Google and Bing. But social media for many types of content is now playing a vital role, whether you want it or not. And so you see a massive influx of new apps, new creators come up every year, new discovery platforms and etc. But the big problem is that the time spent on smartphones is not increasing at the same pace. In the US, we've gone from a little less than 4 hours in 2019 to a little less over 4 hours in 2021, which means that consumer attention span, unfortunately, is finite. And social media had to invent the algorithmic feed to aggressively filter and prioritize content. And that stresses a lot of creators out, even just thinking about the algorithm. So you should not have to crack the algorithm, right? But 75% of creators cited the algorithm as most taxing in that survey that I mentioned before. And if you take into account content creation on your website and then all the social media that you think you have to do on top, the average that in the survey was reported was around 71 hours. That is the minimum just to stay afloat as a content creator. That's probably not very healthy. So let's say you figured that all out. You beat the algorithm, you have a respectable following. Now you still struggle with the middlemen that come into play when you have to advertise your content across closed or walled gardens, as we call them. And so on those walled gardens, on those social media apps, you don't own the relationship with your audience. The social platforms do. And there's often a rude awakening when you build an audience on a social media platform and you realize, oh, I actually cannot email my followers. I can't get to the email address of them. And that's really bad for professional creators. Again, for the hobbyist, not that much of a concern, but for professional creators, it's a problem. If you're following those creators onto your website, you can activate them differently. Again, another problem is that content has now a much shorter shelf life if distributed via social media. And so the ephemerality is a big problem. It depends on the type of platform, but sometimes this content is really seen for hours or days at best, and afterwards it's essentially gone. On search engines, as well as on deep video platforms like YouTube, you don't have that problem. You have a better shelf life, but on social media it's a big problem. So you have to really race from one content to next content to really stay relevant. Let's say you figure that out. If you can live with the constant chase of social media content, it's still getting difficult to make sustained income, depending on the vertical. For a lot of verticals and types of content, brand deals are now a primary source of income. For instance, 57% of fashion and beauty companies engage in influencer marketing. Influencer marketing is not a bad thing. Brand deals are not a bad thing, but they come with their own set of challenges and their active income. And I'm going to talk a little bit about what that means in a bit. Another big problem with jumping on every new social media platform is that you have to agree to the terms of service of that media platform, right? That's not your website. On your website, you can get away with whatever you want to, as long as you don't, annoy the advertisers that you decide to pull in. There's obviously policy violations and that kind of thing on your website too. But on social media, it's a whole nother level. You're always at the risk of losing your account over something theoretically stupid, very stupid, like a false automatic copyright flag. And that's not just theory. Platforms can randomly change the stance on acceptable content, and then as a result, the same way an investor might buy a bunch of different stocks to diversify their portfolio, creators diversify by jumping on every possible platform out there, and then often spread themselves too thin. And finally, another one that I want to talk about, and this is hard to quantify, but I still have observed this, is this obsession with stardom. A lot of times when I talk to content creators today versus 10, 20 years ago, a lot of people want to become famous. And I don't think that has been the case as much in 2008. Wanting to become famous is not a new thing. Wanting to become famous on the internet is a relatively recent trend. Previously people didn't want to become outrageous famous, and now everyone wants to become Kylie Jenner or Mr. Beast, but only very few can. So that's not a way towards sustaining a healthy income or work-life balance. To give you an example, here's Kevin Perry, who got 75 million views on a viral video and then tweeted about how he didn't make a single dime from that video. That's a good wake-up moment to realize that views are not the same thing as getting paid, depending on where you post it. And all things combined, this isn't a very healthy combo. These topics come up in almost every conversation we have with creators, and at some point we always hear the same resigned admission. And that's, I don't know how long I can do this. That's usually a sign of at least early stages of burnout, and they're not wrong. There is probably such a thing as a creator shelf life. And my friend Nuzaya here has, from Nas Daily, has said that shelf life is 5 years, which is pretty grim if you think about it. And I know a lot of you have been creating content for longer than that. But nowadays, you should really think about, can you maintain that pace? and how long can you maintain it? When I ask creators this question, most of them realize that they're incredibly stressed. Everyone agrees that if they only had more time, they could have accomplished so much more. But that's a tragic fallacy. Time is a very precious and limited resource, and burning more midnight fuel is not a good strategy. So if more time isn't the answer, then what is? Well, there's actually a lot you can do to reclaim energy, passion, and sleep, and here are some solutions. The first one, the absolute best way, in my opinion, to reclaim time is to shift from active income generation to passive income generation. So what does that mean? Well, active income is anything you actively have to work for. So for instance, your regular content, sponsored posts, product endorsements, handmade products, etc. But then passive income is anything you don't have to actively work for. And that's things like ads and affiliate links and license royalties, for instance, for products that you're licensing, or music, digital products like Lightroom presents, ebooks, high-res photo sets, NFTs, etc., or paid downloadable content and brand-driven merchandise, especially if it's dropship merchandise. And so here's just one example of a website and creator that is sort of a skill-based creator, and they started to make props for cosplaying. And then they realized, look, they can sell tutorials about this. Now, not every passive income source is right for you. There are thousands of valid strategies to make $100 by passive monetization. Of course, many of you are well versed by making these $100 with ads. And that's completely legitimate. But ads depend on views. There are other strategies in addition to advertising to make money. For instance, you could make money with 10 fans paying $10 each for membership, or 2 fans buying $50 worth of merchandise, or even 1 fan buying your $100 online course. So that all of that can add in the long run. The next part, and the next part of the strategy is what I call, well, not what I call, but what many call, and was coined by Kevin Kelly in 2008, the 1,000 true fan strategy. And it's now more in fashion than ever before. And very roughly speaking, he proposed that instead of trying to make money with your audience, which are the folks that watch your videos or follow you on social media, focus on your true fans, those that follow you everywhere, support you financially, and root for you. And you really don't need 1 million fans to sustain a fulfilling career or comfortable lifestyle. Plenty of creators with a smaller paying group really find success and thrive. And your 1,000 true fans are not just interested in your content, they are invested in you as a creator. They want you to succeed and contribute to your dreams and goals. For example, YouTuber Ginny Dai has created a lot of content over the years, from music to cosplay and now tabletop gaming, all with a unique brand and charisma and loyal fan base. So she has done a lot of different things in many different niches, but her fans just followed her. And that's amazing. So if you have fans like this, you should really keep them. And if you realize you don't have to have millions of followers to live a fulfilling life as a content creator, you can significantly improve your chances of success by going niche. Going all in on the topic that thousands of people love rather than millions of people like means you'll build a much deeper, stronger relationship with your fans. Now, here's a quote from Jack Conte, which I found really, really interesting. And that's, you may think your interests are niche. Maybe only 1 in 1,000 people like the same things as you, but with 4 billion people online, that's 4 million people who share your interests. On the internet, no niche is too niche. And I so much agree with this. It's very interesting. To give you a case in point, here's something called fan art. If you're not familiar with fan art, it's artwork created by fans about some movie or some book or a series character. And you might think that's already sufficiently niche, right? But then not so quick. Let's take another quite specific niche interest. The famous Art Nouveau style, a style that was most popular between 1890 and 1910 during the Belle Epoque period, that ended with the start of World War I in 1914. So what happens if you go ultra niche and combine those two? Yes, Art Nouveau fan art. And you probably think, oh, okay, well, that's quaint and all, but there's no way somebody can attract 1,000 paying true fans with this and make a living. And surprise, you will be wrong. The artist Hannah Alexander's niche is exactly that. And she found over 1,000 people who love this stuff so much that they pay for her work on her Patreon. So whether using Patreon, whether you use something on your own website, doesn't matter. But the fact that she found 1,000 fans that engage deeply is what matters. If you want to find out how to find your own niche, we actually have resources about this. You have resources on creators.google, but you also have resources on our YouTube channel. And not just that, and here's the video from one quote from Keiko, who's the author of that video. You can find a lot more stuff like that on our YouTube channel. Not just topics around content creation itself, but also everything around it. For instance, how do you deal with haters, etc. So please check it out. This is a shameless plug, but please check it out if you want to learn more about this kind of stuff. Now, in order to implement those things, those 3 strategies, you need to have direct access to fans and their email addresses. You need flexible monetization options you control, and you need creative freedom and ownership of your content. And really, oftentimes you don't get that from social media. So that home base, of course, is still your website. And when I talk to creators who are primarily a publisher or website owner, who then also activate their audience on social media, they often ask me, well, how do I do this? How do I create a funnel or a strategy that spans both? And we've seen the most successful creators being the ones that think of social media as window shopping or funnel to convert their audience into fans. So we're very aware that that it's not as easy anymore to have people click a link on social media. However, that's not necessarily always the goal. The goal is you build your audience, and then you find the most invested fans, and you lead them to your website, whether it's a QR code or a link or some activation that you mentioned in your video. Corridor Digital, for instance, here pictured, is a VFX studio, and they've done this really well. They plug their website in almost every video, and then you have a lot of additional stuff on their website as a super fan. So this is a great way to do it. And another thing that I wanted to quickly mention is that we're also exploring as a team what we can do to bring the type of content that people expect on social media, the content formats, to the web where you can monetize it and promote it more efficiently. So if you've not heard about web stories, I also encourage you to give that a look by going to creators.google or stories.google and check out what we're doing to this typical content format that you can now use on your own website and monetize like a blog post with affiliate links and ads. All right, I've been talking for a long time. I think I've stretched my budget of 15 minutes. I really would like to see what you think about implementing some of these strategies. I'm really curious what you make out of it. That's been my presentation. Please check out our content on creators.google, on our Instagram and our YouTube account. You see my face in those YouTube videos as well. And of course, I would be really happy if you stay in touch. We're also here to support you, ask us any kind of questions that we have. And yeah, that's it. Thank you. Back to you, Tyler. You're still muted.
There we go. We've got we don't have any Q&A in the Q&A box. If you've got a question for Paul, drop it in there. We've reserved a little bit of his time, and we had some questions that we had sent over to him that we answered in the first session. And Paul, I actually just kind of wanted to touch on one of those a little bit, and I'll try to kind of take it from a slightly different angle so that you're not repeating yourself from earlier. But we talked a little bit about Google Discovery and what that is. And one of the things that I mentioned that I really liked about it was sort of the merit-based nature of it, but it being something that's dynamically different from Google search. And one of the things I was interested to learn from you is sort of how you've seen the evolution of that product, and maybe some insight into how you would envision kind of the future of Google Discovery.
Yeah, that's a great question. So yeah, I mean, I guess maybe to reiterate, we get a lot of questions from content creators and developers on how to optimize their SEO for Google Discover. And we purposely don't have a lot of guides on that, because we don't want people to think that if they follow a checklist of 10 things, they will get consistent traffic from Google Discover, because that's very far from the truth. Google Discover compared to Google Search is an algorithmic feed that is highly personalized, right? It doesn't start with a query like on Google where you're searching for something, but we try to infer what you like. In your case, maybe like Shiba Inus, right? And then we realize, okay, he's really into Shiba Inu, but not the cryptocurrency. And we personalize the results based on that, right? And the other thing is that we try to keep it timely. So sometimes you see this kind of article that says like, in case you missed it. So we also promote evergreen content, but a lot of the content that you see will probably be timely content. And so the product is very different from the search results page, which means that the traffic that you get, it won't be as consistent. I think we rarely talk about upcoming product features, but I think that's probably the most important bit to keep in mind, to think of it as additional traffic. But it is an important product for us. I think the last time we released stats on Google Discover, we had about 1 billion users or so on Discover. So it's something that you should think about. You should definitely make sure that you have, for instance, the right schema data around your thumbnails to make sure that your content appears well in Discover, that it has a fighting chance. Same for something like web stories. If you don't have the right markup in your web story, then you're not even eligible to appear, and that would be a shame, right? So there's a few basic requirements for content to appear in the first place. And we do have guidance on that on Search Central and on our YouTube channel when it comes to web stories. So at the minimum, that's really important. Yeah, I don't know. I think visual content is very interesting, right? So web stories are more visual than ever before. And when you use Discover, it's a very visual way of exploration. So I think that's something that we want to lean in even further in the future. And I think the more you can think about getting a visual hook into your blog post or into your web story, the better.
I think that's a really interesting concept, because I think most of us were introduced to stories through social media platforms, but for those that maybe don't know, it is an open format and something that Google has been using and rolling into a multitude of different things. And publishers we've seen use it as both on desktop and mobile, but the mobile element is something I'm really interested in particular. Google Discovery, I'm not sure what percentage of the users that are interacting with it are mobile, but I'd guess the majority. And I'm curious as to sort of if you guys have noticed any trends in particular, or if there's anything that you can share related to the nature of your audience and sort of in a mobile interface, what types of content tend to be the ones that either perform the best or the most engaging to an audience.
We don't really have, give me 1 second. We don't really have released global stats about Discover. However, we have released a blog post a while back. Actually, you know what? I'm going to share the web stories version of that blog post, because why not?
How appropriate.
The web stories of that version of that blog post links to a YouTube video at the end and also the blog post. Anyway, we have released stats around what kind of web stories work well on Discover versus what doesn't work so well. And I think that from that, you can probably also infer what type of content generally works well on Discover. So for instance, lifestyle content fits the story format extremely well. And lifestyle content, like that offers opportunities for brand deals and sponsored content and affiliate links, really has the highest engagement of any vertical in the web story land on Discover. That's just one example. And then there are more food and drink and arts and entertainment stories on Google Discover than from any other vertical. That's an interesting fact too. One thing that personally really resonates with me is the content gap, as I call it. So, it's not only helpful to think about, okay, what is the most, what is the best performing vertical on Discover or on search, right? And then go after it. You also have to know whether there's demand, right? And so in order to understand demand, we also looked at the kind of gaps where there's a lot of demand from consumers, but not a lot of creation. And one thing that we found out is that for topics like arts and entertainment and celebrity and sports and gaming, these verticals are not very saturated yet. So I would encourage you to really go into those gaps, which I think is very impactful. So yeah, check out the story and the blog post and the video to learn more about what works and what doesn't. And I think we will bring more updates in the future around our learnings in Discover. I would love to release more stats, and I think you all would love to read it. So,
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and Paul, I want to thank you once again for joining us, and not just joining us once but twice, and sharing really unique insights in both cases. I'll have to make sure that we stay in touch, because I think our audience would love to hear from you again. And yeah, anytime you have new innovations or news related to the Creator Relations Program, I would love to help amplify that. I think our audience would enjoy it, and I'd be personally interested to hear more about it as well. So please stay in touch, and thank you once again for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me. Take care.
All right, everyone. So I mentioned it before, but it's a very timely presentation from Paul, and hopefully all of you were able to glean something from there that you found either interesting or helpful. I think it'll really connect well with a lot of what you'll hear from us over the next couple days, and hopefully see from us this year, as we, I would say, really try to provide outlets to execute on some of the things that Paul had shared, and some of the principles there that maybe in some cases seem like hard or challenging, or maybe even the agency and pathway that you would need to do some of those things. We can maybe connect you to some things there that maybe seem out of reach at the moment. And I think that that's one of the encouraging things about hearing Paul talk a little bit more about this is, I think at Ezoic, we think really long and hard about how we keep our publishers ahead, and how we bring to you the types of tools and features that you need to be able to survive and thrive in a modern digital ecosystem. So I'm going to go back and share my screen here once again. All right, and please tell me, marketing team, if for some reason we can't see it here. So once again, thank you, Paul. And now the moment that I'm sure many of you were waiting for, and the announcement of our publisher awards, and recognition and explanation of some of the different programs and awards that we have set out to create, mainly because I think one of the things about publishing, especially independent digital publishing, that is a little unfortunate, is that there's not always the recognition for publishers when you're working so hard. In many cases on content, it can feel like you're laboring away sort of on your own. And I think one of the big goals that we have this year is to find ways to connect publishers with each other, with resources, and with the knowledge that they need to grow and to thrive, and to feel like they're on the right path. And I think this is, a small effort on our end, basically to recognize some of those that are on the right path. And I think being able to recognize that is helpful as a publisher to see, what is it that, my peers are doing, or maybe somebody that's a little ahead of me, or or maybe somebody that's innovating is doing. And that's one of the things that I think we see an opportunity to encourage. And so one of the first things that we did as part of the awards program is we really wanted to recognize just various achievements that we see across our entire base of publishers across the world. So tens of thousands of sites of every shape and size and category you can imagine. We wanted to identify and recognize those top sites by category. So if you are a top site in your respective category, there's over 20 recognized by the IAB. And inside of those categories, there's all these subcategories or niches that that kind of exist inside of them. But if you were one of those top sites, we sent out some notifications and certificates of achievement to those sites yesterday. And if you didn't get one or one of these, check your spam just to be sure, because there's a chance that you might have just missed it. And we also recognize as a part of this our breakout brands, our sites that saw exponential growth this year, that leveled up maybe not just once but twice, and really saw significant growth both in terms of audience and revenue this year. And so we wanted to recognize those sites as well. Our certified experts, these are some of our top sites in terms of their expertise and basically how they've continued to help or foster a community or help other publishers inside of the Ezoic community as a part of our efforts to just really recognize not only your contributions or your efforts as a publisher, but really your efforts and contributions to each other. Because one of the things that we've noticed is that publishers really enjoy working with and learning from other publishers. And we want to help identify those that are doing a good job of providing good information that's helpful and educational to other sites that maybe are trying to achieve or accomplish some of the things that our experts have in the past. Our professionals and our Ezoic premium publishers are publishers that have hit certain benchmarks inside of Ezoic, whether it's leveling up or growing their traffic significantly over the course of a year, but also those publishers that are inside of Ezoic Premium. And so Premium is something that we offer to publishers once we recognize that it's something that could be profitable to them. I've discussed it at length before, and if it's something that you're interested in learning more about, there's some information on levels.ezoic.com. But you can always join the Q&A tomorrow, and I'm happy to dive into any other questions you might have about it. But our premium publisher program is something that I think in many ways is something that publishers should be proud of, from the standpoint of you're attracting an audience that not only is valuable to advertisers, but is valuable to your audience. The content that you've got on your site is something that you've been able to foster and grow, and being able to recognize that is something that we can provide that drives greater authority and recognition to your brand, and then also can help us further produce better advertising arrangements and direct deals for you over time. So congratulations to all of those sites that we recognized. And yeah, we sent out notifications for that yesterday via email. And I think one of the things this year that we plan to do is offer a lot more educational and also active features to help sites sort of reach these points if they weren't able to do it last year. So now we're on to some of our more specific awards. The first one is our 2021 Access Now Honor Roll. So for those that don't know, it seems like a long time ago, but Access Now was actually not even in existence at the start of this year. And for those that aren't familiar, Access Now is a program that we piloted and started creating in late 2020 to basically help sites that previously might not have been able to access both Ezoic or any forms of monetization, or even some of the additional features and tools that Ezoic provides that can help cut overhead costs and provide features that can help you grow or accelerate your growth. And we wanted to be able to provide something that allowed these sites to not only access our tools, but to hopefully grow faster than they could on their own. And part of that included a course that I'm proud to say has been exponentially successful thanks to the team here at Ezoic that's worked exclusively on it. And so these publishers are some of our top performing in terms of both we offer a test at the end to see how much knowledge they've been able to glean from our courses. And not only that, publishers that have taken that information and then applied it and been able to grow and develop successfully using the information. And so congratulations to these publishers for their success as a part of the Access Now program. We also want to identify the emerging publishers. So these are publishers that have grown out of, if you will, Access Now and actually leveled up in some cases more than once. So these are publishers that started with us as new or growing sites as a part of our Access Now program and have since moved on to level 1, level 2. And I think we've even had a publisher now make it to level 4 all within a year. And I don't even believe that Access Now was available until May or June of last year. So just really, really stupendous growth. And we want to recognize them and congratulate them for all their hard work and really just showing the rest of us kind of the model for being able to take a site that maybe was an idea at the start of the year and reach a point of it being a real business by the end. So congrats to all of those publishers. Next, we have our Content Award. Our Content Award is primarily targeted at publishers that created a lot of quality content this year. So not just creating lots of content, but creating content that actually reached visitors. And in many cases, you can create a lot of content and you sit back and you wait, and you wait, and you wait for that organic traffic to come. But one of the things that we've seen consistently is publishers that have found avenues or channels where their audience is already existing and being able to promote and market that content there has aided them quite a bit in not only growing their site in terms of traffic from these channels, but also it expedites the growth of their organic traffic as well. So we want to recognize these publishers for what is, I think, the lifeblood of digital publishing, which is content creation. So congrats to all of these publishers. A couple names here on this list that I recognize from some of our past events and longtime Ezoic publishers. So congrats and good job applying all the different principles and things like that that I know we've had a chance to share and talk about in the past. Next, we have our Site Speed Award. So these are publishers that have been utilizing Ezoic Leap to not only pass Core Web Vitals, but I believe all the publishers on this list have perfect scores. You can actually go on to the speed tab of your Ezoic dashboard, and underneath there's a tab called the Leap Leaderboard. And on there, you can see all the Ezoic publishers with perfect scores and the thousands of publishers using Ezoic to pass Core Web Vitals. And we know that this was a major point of emphasis for publishers at the start of this year. And so on that leaderboard, you can actually see what other publishers are using in terms of technology. So WordPress, Host, different tools or technologies or plugins that they may be using as well. And you can actually see how they've been able to sort of orientate their site or configure it so that they're passing Core Web Vitals. And that's one of the things we really wanted to open up this year is allow sites to kind of see what other sites are doing to achieve different goals, in this case, site speed. But these publishers in particular have done a great job at maintaining very, very fast sites using both Leap and their hard work. It's not easy to make a site that's fast these days, especially with sort of the acceleration of all the different things you can put on a page. But these publishers have done a great job of balancing all those different elements and excelling in terms of site speed performance. Next, we have our Social Media Strategist Award. And so while we recognize the fact that building content that generates a large amount of organic traffic as being something that's not easy to do, sometimes building an audience on or driving traffic through social media can be even harder, because you have to be able to deliver something to an audience that they want enough to come to your site and consume the content there. And so we want to recognize these publishers for their exceptional work in both growing their social media traffic and also utilizing multiple different channels and strategies to generate quality organic social traffic. And yeah, so congrats again to all of these publishers. One of the things that I had mentioned earlier today was that of all of our different award winners, we'll be seeking to try to connect with them and some of the other nominees to share some of the things that they've done to excel in these different areas. Because I think, you know, I don't know about everyone on you know, this video chat, but myself, I'm very interested to know what other publishers are doing, because these things are always sort of changing and the trends change. And a lot of times the creative answers to some of these challenges are quite simple, and sometimes they're quite complex, and being able to have some insight to that is very valuable. And this is a great example. Our Video Master Award is for our publishers that have both uploaded and been able to generate and drive an audience to their site using video. And so Ezoic, inside of the video tab, you can actually upload videos. You can actually take a video that you may have on YouTube and upload it to Ezoic. It'll be indexed in search the same as a YouTube video is. And in fact, we include multiple features that provide automated schema markup and other elements that can actually help you rank quite a bit higher, both in video results, and by embedding it on your page, it adds additional content to your site that may be valuable to visitors. And you're able to monetize that video in ways that you're unable to when just using an embedded YouTube video. And so these publishers have done an excellent job in using video to both grow their audience and their revenue. So congrats to these publishers. Next, our Online Educator Award. So these are all publishers that I recognize immediately, and maybe many of you do as well. And that's because these are publishers that we've recognized out in communities online, across the web, and in almost every case in multiple communities, offering both help and assistance to other online publishers. And frankly, not just these Ezoic publishers, but they've done an excellent job of just being advocates for our publishers and providing helpful information, really just because they're helpful. And it's really encouraging to see just the way that our community has supported each other and continued to grow and develop. And that's, you know, the least we can do is recognize some of the folks that are you know, spending a lot of time on this and really doing an exceptional job. So congrats to all of these publishers. Next, we have our Community Top Performer Award. So across the web, we know that publishers like to find places where other publishers like them, or other publishers that have, you know, found success, or maybe you're in similar categories or niches, tend to hang out. And what we wanted to do was partner with various leaders or stewards of these communities, and really identify within their groups or online forums which Ezoic publishers had really grown or excelled as a result of sort of the knowledge that they gathered inside of their community. And so we worked with all of them to basically identify some of their top publishers. And so you can see all the different communities that we have here. They are quite diverse. I believe I've at least set foot, and if not myself, at least other members of Ezoic have been in here before to just try to interact with some of our different publishers. And we know that each of these is filled with a lot of different types of publishers, but many of which are Ezoic publishers. And so we just wanted to recognize some of those that have excelled and been active members of these communities over time. So congrats to all of these publishers as well. Next, we have our Tag Tester of the Year award. And so I should probably explain this if it doesn't stick out to you and you go, what is a tag test? It's referring to a title tag test. So we want to recognize these publishers as being those that are using Ezoic's title tag tester. So if you go into the SEO tab of your Ezoic dashboard, we designed a tool that we actually tested for over a year to objectively measure the impact of testing title tags on SEO. And one of the things that we were able to glean from that is that objectively, it can affect SEO in multiple ways. And it really depends on how you want to look at it. If someone clicks on your result more because it identifies the content better, that's more traffic. If as a result of that, your content ranks higher and generates more attention or greater reach, then that's a benefit as well. And so one of the things that we've seen this year is publishers being able to utilize that and some of the advanced algorithms and data science models that we've created to sort of support that, to automate the process and make it really easy for publishers. And we've seen exponential growth from some of the publishers using it, and these publishers are no exception. Some of the ones that performed the most tests or saw the best results this year. So congrats to all of them. And then this is a big one. In many ways, this award is its own award because it's some of our publishers that have seen the top earnings growth this year. So these publishers saw exponential revenue growth this year using the Ezoic platform. Obviously, revenue goes hand in hand with being able to generate and build an audience, but being able to use data to sort of govern how you manage that growth and how you grow your site successfully is no small task. And so we want to recognize these publishers for their accomplishment this year. And this is one that in particular, I would love to connect with some of these publishers, not just the winners, but the nominees as well. And that's because our SEO strategy of the year award goes to our publisher that had the most exceptional or successful SEO strategy this year. And the nominees were filled with very, very reputable and publishers that were qualified to win this award. And quite frankly, it was a very difficult one for us to be able to sort of sort through. But congratulations to Georgie on basically being rising to the top of a very exceptional class of publishers. And so I know many of you listening to this, we have many SEO experts and veteran publishers that have been using SEO successfully over the years. And so I'm hoping that we can get some of them to share what they've done both this year and in the past with the rest of our community here in the short term. Next, we have our Ezoic Legacy Award. So these are publishers that on average have been using the Ezoic platform for nearly 7 years. And so we want to recognize these publishers. Almost every name here rings a bell to me because I've had the chance to interact with them over the years, if not in person, digitally. But several of these publishers here are veterans and folks that have achieved a lot over the years and definitely deserve this. And I want to say congrats to all of them, but in particular, I want to say congrats to Dave Taylor. Dave is someone that he might have been the first publisher I ever met when we started building Ezoic. And I remember going to dinner with him here in Carlsbad. He'd just gotten back, I believe, from some type of publisher conference. And he is someone that we've tapped several times over the years to share with us sort of some of the knowledge that he's accrued over decades of publishing. And so you can actually go on our Ezoic blog and read various accounts and strategies that Dave has used over the years. So he's been a contributor to some of our content over the years, but some of his content on one of his sites that he owns and operates with his namesake, askdavetaylor.com, is filled with a lot of information that publishers might find helpful as well. And so I just want to congratulate Dave and recognize him as being a publisher that's been using Ezoic for over 7 years. And actually, when Dave started, mobile friendly still had not been released yet by Google. And for those that maybe are unfamiliar, mobile friendly, not mobile first, was actually one of the first kind of Google like looming algorithm changes that sites needed to be mobile friendly, and not all of them were then. Next, we have our Lifetime Achievement Award, and this one goes to our publishers that have seen significant achievement, both in terms of growth, but primarily revenue. We're recognizing publishers that have achieved or grown to over $1 million in revenue using Ezoic. And while we won't disclose exact amounts on any particular publisher, it's no small feat to reach that benchmark. And so we want to congratulate all these publishers on their accomplishment. And then last but not least, this publisher actually joined us this morning and was on the video call. And I can't say enough good things about them. I've been able to see their site and then see them in communities throughout the year, and just have watched that publisher progress and level up throughout the year. And so very deserving, Tony O'Neill, our publisher of the year. And I told him this morning, congrats. If this is the recorded version that we publish, Tony, congrats from me and everyone here at Ezoic. Exceptional job this year, and hopefully we can coax you into sharing with us a little bit more about your journey and what you've done and how you've done it. But congrats again, and hopefully this year we'll have a chance to be able to deliver things to publishers that will allow them to do many of the things that you've done this year as a result of your hard work and innovation. So that wraps up all the different awards and classifications and achievements that we wanted to recognize as a part of our New Year Evolution effort. And one of the things that I really want to really kind of hone in on as a part of this is we wanted to include this as a celebration and a point of recognizing the achievements and of our various publishers. But going back to the middle of last year, we made it a point to really find out how we can really aid our publishers in connecting with each other and provide them with the resources and the tools that they need to grow successfully. And tomorrow I'll share with you sort of the vision that we have for 2022, some of the announcements and exciting new features, tools, services that we plan to provide to our publishers this year, largely as a result of really observing some of the most successful sites and how they've grown this past year, and being able to use that feedback and that information to really hone in on how we can help all of our different sites, big or small, continue to grow and make strides, so that these achievements, if you weren't able to reach that point this year, hopefully, in the next 365 days, we'll get you there as a team. And we are recording this. I don't know if this will be the recording or it's the one from earlier. I'm guessing this one. We had some technical problems earlier, so I think you guys are on the A side. But I will be hosting a special awards and announcement event tomorrow. It is in the morning in Pacific time here on the West Coast of the United States. So if you're unable to make it, we are recording that as well. And it'll include a Q&A with me and an overview of our 2022 roadmap, which really is me just kind of walking through sort of what our plans are and how we intend to help you more than we've ever helped our publishers before. And I think you'll see some of the investments that we've made, both in terms of both staff and technology to help you get there. And if you haven't had a chance to review all the different things that we've done as a part of this kind of, I suppose it's been around a little over a month that we've been sort of rolling out both awards and some new features, products, and new promotions as a part of this. You can actually go to this URL. It's on this next page. There at the bottom, www.ezoic.com/new-year-evolution. And you can watch the recordings, learn more about the awards, see the award winners, and access additional resources that kind of point to some of the things that we've done over the course of the last month. But I want to encourage everyone, if you can't join tomorrow live, please watch the recording, or feel free to check back in on this page, and it should have all the information and recordings available. But I'll be reviewing the rewards, walking through all the different things that we plan for next year, or this year rather. Anybody else do that? You sort of, you write down the wrong date. I've written 21 more times than I've written 22 to this point. I can tell you that. But if you have questions about what year it is, or anything else, I'll be doing a live Q&A and AMA tomorrow, and I really mean it. I will stay and answer as many questions as I can for as long as I can, and nothing's off limits. So I look forward to connecting with those of you that can make it tomorrow. And until next time, I want to thank everyone for both participating and joining and following along with this. I really believe we are in the golden age of publishing, and I couldn't be more excited about what we have in store for our publishers this year. So stay tuned, and thanks once again.